Nissy, second question that I have is, I understand you had a difficult profile. Can you share
Yeah.
your profile, how you got into the master's program directly, which you tell with your qualification at U Business School? I also want to stretch it further, how you decided to go to Canada and study and then basically do your doctorate program. There's so much that you have in your profile. Can you tell us a little bit on that?
Okay. So I think my profile was a difficult profile, as I mentioned earlier. So I think it was more of like I was a bachelor's passed out. So I did finish my bachelor's. And then for time being, I didn't receive my certificates because I was not in India at the time. I was traveling with work and everything. So I was involved in family business at the same time. So it was more like, I didn't really follow up with, my course and everything because, when you're involved in family business, it kind of takes you along, the busy schedule. So I think after my bachelor's, I wanted to do master's. All right. But the problem with me was I didn't have my certificate. So I did contact you and I shared with you this is my profile. And you said with the profile, we can only go for bachelor's because since you don't have the certificates. So I was a bit of, devastated with the, outcome. But then I did receive my acceptance letter from EU, which was conditional, not unconditional. So within a week, I received my bachelor's certificate, and I was like, Richard, listen, I got my bachelor's, so let's go for the MBA. And I did send you my certificates, and then you send them to EU. And then I think in a week I received my MBA acceptance, and you were like, it's the first time a student is receiving an acceptance letter from bachelor's and master's at the same time. So it was like a peculiar case in my situation. And why EU is a very important question because I was looking for universities where that concentrates on business because me coming from a business family, it was important for me that I need to go to a business school rather than a university. So I think I did find EU on a career fair, which was linked to it. And I started contacting them. And that's when I was like, let me find someone that I have connections with EU in India because it would be much better to do that way. And that's how I got into contact with you. And, so and so took place. It was my choice for EU, but even the campus was my choice because who doesn't love Barcelona? It's a wonderful place to live. So definitely I'm a person who loves to travel. So for me it was important that I have the exposure, I need the experience, or I wanted to go to Barcelona. The point was just that. So
Right.
for me, yes. And yes, I did start EU MBA in Barcelona, and I did two of my semesters there, and third semester I moved to the Geneva campus.
Okay.
So yeah, so I moved to Geneva campus, and ever since then, I don't think I've left Geneva. So I stood there for for almost like few years since 2016 and 2017. You have to got to like start and finish within the
Okay.
prescribed time. So that's one thing. But you do have the freedom to start and end when you want. But when you think about the economic reasons, relating to finance, the course fees and everything, I would definitely say Europe will stick way more effective within yours, whatever you have ideas about your life and everything. And I think it was 2021 I enrolled in Canada. So it was a difficult process because with the European certificates, it's difficult to get into a Canadian university
Okay.
because even though you have the affiliations, the all the kind of things, but Canada works on a very different level. You know, they don't really accept Europe that well with education. For Canada, it's just that you study in Canada, they respect you. If you're not from Canada, that's it. You're like an alien to them. So for me, getting enrolled was a very difficult thing because I was rejected, I think, 7 to 8 times. Even though I did submit my, papers on why I want to study, all the reasons, all my accomplishments, qualifications, everything. They were like, no, we can't take you. So Canada is there. But then I was like, you know what? I need to get it. Like there was no other way. I'm going to drop this. So I think it was after almost 2 years of constant applications. I think it was the third year I got enrolled. So
Okay.
it was at UBC, University of British Columbia. And in the history, it is quite difficult to get into universities in Canada, especially with a profile. But I must tell, do not give up. Constant tries. It takes constant tries, because right now, what the students we need is patience. We need to be patient, because life is not going to serve you right everything in front of you. You have to go for it. So it is important that even though you get rejections, I've been rejected many times from my beginning. So rejections is something that, gives you more confidence. Like, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to go forward. So even with the rejections, I was like, sometimes like you feel bad. You feel, kind of like, really bad, like, why I got rejected, even though I have a good profile. But sometimes they don't give really, importance to what we are. For them, they have a set of things. So if you don't fit into that, they don't want it. But there are times, even when you're rejected, they take you, because you're constantly being, behind them, telling,
Right.
why do you deserve this? I mean, if you know that you deserve something, work towards it. It doesn't matter if they reject you. So Toronto has been, a kind of a strict pushback in my career, because I didn't expect it to be, this strict. So when I moved to Toronto, I was like, you know what, I don't want to live in Toronto because it's kind of crowded right now. And British Columbia was like, it was kind of, flowing place to live in the sense it's not crowded. I mean, you do have expats a lot, you do have students, but they're on a limited scale, you know what I mean, compared to Toronto.
Right.
So I would definitely stick towards EU, like Europe, for studies, the flexibility, the lifestyle, the living cultures, the exposure, the freedom, and most definitely the food. You can travel. If you want to travel, definitely travel, study, and learn, get experiences. EU is the best place to live in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, people go to Canada because they want to settle abroad. So, Canada gives you that option to basically study, work, and settle. So that's why they find it so attractive.
It does. I think Canada, they find it way more attractive is because everybody's just stressing on the point of permanent residency, So after certain years, you get stay backs. Even Europe does offer you the same, Europe does offer you the same. Like you can work, you can part-time, at the same time you study. And right now you get a lot of programs where you can study for 6 months and work for 6 months. It's how you want to take it.
Okay.
So it's either way. I mean, it's personal choices for people. Someone who has been to like, I don't have much experience, but I did complete 45th country this year.
Wow.
So with someone that kind of travel experience, I would definitely say if you want to go someplace for the first time to study out of India, Canada is not the option for you.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
A student also find that if you go to, let's say you said Geneva, and Geneva is a place you loved so much.
Yes.
Okay. So Switzerland is difficult for student to work after the program, for student to settle after the program. So how did you manage?
Yes, I would definitely agree to that. Switzerland is not a place where you can find work easily, where it's not easy to live there after the course, because you don't really get a stay back. In Geneva, you don't get stay backs. So you finish your course, you find your work, you extend your residency, and that's how you live. So what I had was I was constantly behind the how do I say, career guidance at EU. So one thing I have to introduce is that EU has a career board where the students are, given opportunities to find part-time jobs or like internships. So there's like a place where you go and you tell them, so I want to find a work. All you have to do is just go to them and tell them that you want to find a work. So they will make up a profile and they will help you with the internships available, something like that. So what I did was I did try with EU, but then I was trying on my own on the side. So it was, I think after 6 to 7 months, I did find an internship with the UN.
Wow.
So there was no pay. It was an internship. And it's not easy as it sounds, because you have a lot of difficulties attending classes, then going to work, then finishing work and everything. So I did find an internship with the UNHCR, the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. So I was with the resettlement team, where it was kind of a legal team where they handle crisis and everything. So the work was really stressful. But then what do you get out of that is the experience, to be honest. Nothing else. So if you're looking to build your career in a place that you studied and you think the place is really good to settle in, it takes a lot of hard work. It's not easy like UK, or let's say even like in Barcelona. It was not easy. So it was more like, after I found the internship, it was very difficult to find a paid job. It was very difficult to find a paid job because they look for experiences. And then when you are like a master passed out, you don't have much of an experiences, even though you have experiences with your family business. All they look for is like, what experience do you have in Switzerland? That's all they look at. So I didn't have any experiences except for 6 to 8 months of internship with EU, with UN. So with the experiences, I started to looking for work. And I think it took me around 7 months, I think. 7 months, I decided, what, this is not working out. Let me do something on my own. And that was when I decided I need to start up my own business, because this is not going to take me anywhere. Finding job in Switzerland is difficult. And I would definitely say it is difficult, because if you have lived for like 3 to 4 years, there are high chances you'll find a job. But if you are like a student, a passed out, you finding a job is something that you don't even have to think about. Because for you to survive, you need to be financially stable in Switzerland.
Okay.
The expenses are quite a bit high compared to other places that I've lived. So as a student, it was difficult for me. Definitely, students need to know that you managing on your own is difficult in a foreign land when you don't take support from your parents. If you're being an independent person, it's kind of a hustle. So it was difficult. There was a lot of struggles finding a job. But it's important that if you sit online and try to find, you won't find any. It's something that you have to go find. If there are like any openings, you have to drop in your CVs at every office as possible. Like literally go in person and drop it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's something I think I had to keep in mind, because I didn't learn that in the beginning. I thought, finding on LinkedIn or, some jobs websites and everything, but that didn't work out. You had to constantly go to offices, drop in your CVs, and then exactly, it takes a lot of time. In meanwhile, you have to see if you have the, permits to stay in for a longer period, supporting your permit. So you have to work. You have to manage a lot of things. Like I had a lot of struggles. It was not easy, not at all. It's not like, definitely I was living with my parents, and then studying alone, living alone was difficult. And then when you move to a certain level of your life, it's quite difficult to manage work, studies, finances and everything. So you need to have like a proper vision about your life. It's not like, you want to go from here. There is way more life after you leave India. So
Wow.
definitely.
Wow. there's a lot basically, there's a lot basically that, I find interesting when you're saying all this. You said you start your business, right? You started your
Yeah.
business. So what business you started and how come you started your business and how is the business doing now?
Business is doing fantastic.
And how are you
So
managing the business with your study, with your doctorate program and everything?
the thing is, I travel back and forth. So this is kind of the thing that I've been doing for like a couple of years right now. So I work, I travel for my work, and in between I go back and attend my classes. One of the advantages with doctorate programs is that you don't have to be constantly in school. You do have your seminars, you do have your discussions, you do have your case studies, so you're good with that. And in 1 to 2 years, what you do is you start with your research program. So you have the flexibility to take your work at the same time. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why they give you 4 to 6 years of completion period for PhDs.
Yes.
You have your time. I mean, you don't do that. So I think after my second master's, so I did enroll with EU. So I did 2 of my masters from EU, and I did 3 of my masters outside EU, which was from the Swiss Graduate School. So it was all diploma programs. And I think one of the programs I did in UK, in London, with the University of Roehampton. I'm sure you must be aware of the
Yeah, yeah,
programs.
yeah.
So I think that was one of the programs. So I think even London was a good exposure. You get to see what life is in different cities. That's the advantages of having dual programs. You get to do 1 semester here, you get to travel for the next semester to the university abroad, outside EU. And it was for me in a way, that challenged me a lot. It challenges you to move out of your comfort zone and then do things. So it really shapes you as a person. And starting business was one of the choices that I made because it was easy to go with the job, because everybody told me that, starting a business is going to be a, headache for you. You won't be able to do it. You need like a lot of financial supports and everything. But I did save up my internship, internship outputs like a lot. So I did save up a bit, and I was like, you know what, let me start something. I mean, if you take a first step, it's easier to take the second step. So according to me, so I did take the first step. So I wanted to do trading all the time. Like it was for me trading, like imports and exports. So I was very much keen on what I wanted. So I knew that I wanted to do trading. So I was like, let me start it, you know? So I did like enroll myself. I did, start educating myself on where to go, what to do, how to do this. So it took me like about uh, 8 months to actually execute what I had in mind. So I did start getting orders, placed orders and everything. So I started to travel. So I went to Iran, I went to Istanbul looking for, suppliers and everything. So it was kind of like, interesting because I love to travel, as I mentioned earlier. So that's something I knew that I wanted to do. And ever since then, I don't think I ever looked back on if this is what I really wanted. And since then, I think I did start my business in Bangalore, in India as well. And then I do have like a shop right now in Kerala. So everything is being managed by people, even though I do have, my way over them. But by the grace of God, it's been going amazing. And even though I did hit like, a few rock bottoms with the COVID, with the pandemic and everything, but right now, yes, I'm back on my feet.
Perfect.
So yes, so it's been all good by the grace of God.
You said you are independent. You said by the word independent, I mean, did you manage your education finance by yourself, or or did you had your parents sponsor you?
So the EU was not me. That was my family. Definitely, they sent me there, and it was my family. So, but after EU with the Swiss Graduate School of Business, so that was me managing my finances because I was working at the same time. I did teach part time at EU, so it was more like I did teach for like 7 months. I was doing assisting. I was an assistant professor at EU for like 7 months, and And after that, I just found it like too stressful for me, because for EU we had campuses in Geneva, Barcelona, Montreux, and in Germany. So for me, I had to travel to Montreux from Geneva, which is like almost 2 hours by train. So to go from Geneva to Montreux and then get back at night, so it was kind of stressful. So I dropped, and that's when I enrolled for doctorate at the first time. But then for me to manage my finances with EU was kind of on an expensive side, because when you work and then EU's thing was a thing. But that's when one of my professor told me, why don't I apply for scholarship with the profile that you have? So I did pass out with 3.9 GPA out of 4.
Wow.
So my professor was like, why don't you apply for a scholarship? And I was awarded like 80% scholarship for my doctorate. And
Okay.
so it was easy for me to manage my finances according to my, my lifestyle.
And you have a business in Geneva, right? You operate from Geneva.
I have my trading in Geneva.
Perfect. That's
Yes.
superb. Your profile seems so much basically in terms of doing 2 masters from U Business School, 3 masters from outside, doing doctorate in between. When you are studying, you besides working for UN for as an internship, which was 6 months, then also basically now doing your business in Geneva, which basically normally people say that it's difficult. It's difficult to work in Geneva. It's difficult to. So you managed to even start a business and you are doing it very well. Wow, super.